What is up, you beautiful gamers, and welcome back to Role-Playing James. Now I'm just gonna get this the hell out of my system so I can rest for the rest of the review. Get the hell out there and buy the damn game. Yes, Timmy, I know you have Gamepass. I know it's on Gamepass. Not everyone has Gamepass, right? Anyways, it's a half-price AAA, better developed title than most of the AAA titles out there. It was made by 11 people. Yeah, that's right. No more excuses for small studios of gaming development. That out of the way. Let's go with the graphics first. Cyberpunk games are hard to develop and build because they burn a whole lot of resources out of the machine running them. That's why Cyberpunk games are quite harder to build on the atmosphere than the movies, because they require polygons. Lots and lots of them. You can't of course compare Cyberpunk worlds because while the premise is the same, they all have their very own soul. However, in video games it is perfectly noticeable when the art direction was headed in a way that the developers wouldn't have to worry too much of how hard it's going to be to build a world. Such is the case for Deus Ex, for example. Not saying Deus Ex is a bad game, I love Deus Ex, but right there, the world looks a little bit more cleaned up, and while the cyberpunk vibes are still there, it feels a little bit closer to a modern era cyberpunk world building, and that is of course built in a way that they wouldn't have to worry of the resources that much, of how many buildings, cables and stuff like that is going to be on the scene. The Ascent doesn't give a shit about this. This sci-fi world is built by someone who said, you know what, I don't give a fuck about resources, build, my brothers. Usually ARPGs are not known to have outstanding close-up visuals because they do not need them with the camera being always so far away. It's different here. Huge attention to detail and textures, everything feels so junked up together with bunch of cables and mechanical stuff, quite excellent level building. There's always stuff happening around the world. And the level of draw distance for vistas is just gorgeous and breathtaking. Reflections, illumination, bloom, everything's precise and chirurgically placed. Although they do seem to abuse bloom, there's always shinies everywhere, but as a personal opinion, I think that a bunch of neon light sources everywhere fits the cyberpunk world building. And even in high predominance of junk and metal places, saturation of color keeps the game vibrant at all times, which is so pleasing to watch. Also, the game has an in-game engine cinematics. Most cases, RPGs decide to just let dialogue do the narrative job. Here, visuals is important as well, narratively speaking. Neon Giant knows they made a damn gorgeous game, and they show it off by zooming on your character and the NPCs, even inside missions, while they converse to each other. Every time a zoom in happens, you can see the level of detail this game has. Particles are perfectly placed. I mean, just take a look at the smoke during this explosion and tell me that's not just pure art and how they manage the resources of the game. Now let's move on to story. It's the usual cyberpunk game. You're in a distant future in the world that companies have taken over the world. The street violence is the bread of every day, and in the Ascent, the companies by some reason crumble down and a local warlord hires you to achieve independence, and that's it. You're thrown in this vast city of Veles to shoot out your way through things while you use your cybernetic powers. Writing is quite well done and characters are charismatic enough to get you to remember even those you spent little time with. There's also side quests that actually do involve some level of world addition, well written and meaningful, which is quite odd for an ARPG. Usually they are used as means to go somewhere, see a new dungeon or location and get some loot out of it. And the main narrative is trying to go somewhere on its own path as well. The main core of the narrative in most cyberpunk media places revolves around getting to know the city's inhabitants and how they're abused by the big corporations running the whole thing. The Ascent, you're on the destruction of the destruction, you're in the end of it, not in the middle of it. And it is quite interesting to learn how it's gonna happen next, or how the inhabitants are gonna react, because you're out there not caring too much for the corporate stuff, but rather being part of that collateral, the chaos that's happening while as the world crumbles down because of the ending of the corporations. Like I mentioned before, this game has an in-game engine cinematics and they look so damn gorgeous. It keeps the pacing of the narrative interesting. You're always wanting to continue the story to see what kind of amazing character are you going to meet next, or what boss are you gonna fight against.
across the reach. I'm Drummer. SI's locked itself into a recursive void loop. Whatever caused this beyond that door took a fat bite out of my thigh. Was all I could do to crawl in here and put your help out. They didn't tell you I was already down here. Cool. Yeah, those fellows mean business. Almost got me. SI's the sentient intelligence operating this hit. Way back's clear now, right? Right.
Moving on to sound, voice acting is quite on point for the main quest line. You have English voice acting and everything else works in this alien language with subtitles that translate for you. Guns sound incredibly satisfying, and while everything's in havoc around the world, you can hear the echoes of the battle surrounding every shot you give or take. The ambient sounds work perfectly with the marvelous soundtrack, making you feel the desolation and despair, the sadness of the cyberpunk world. When the battle starts, you hear this electronic rock roaring as bullets fly over people running for their life while getting caught in the street shootout. And when you're inside those complex tunnels, laboratories and sewers, the echoes of the machines resounding through the tunnels as little notes accompany them while they announce how desolate, alone, and in danger you are. Although while the sound is marvelously handled as well, it is what I found to be more messy and buggy. While I didn't experience any kind of crashes or major gameplay bugs, really often, the whole chaos of the audio would explode into this. Please forgive me for murdering your ears, but let's move on to mechanics of the game. First, you have a character creator that unfortunately all faces look like a dude that decided it was a better idea to take a shit than to try to understand what the hell is happening on the world around him. Although I have to say, the options are quite varied for that of an ARPG. It is quite nice to see how you're going to be your Barbie. You're still going to be wearing a helmet, so it's, well, you get tattoos at least. For builds, let's move on to builds. You have a bunch of different options. Everything's widespread into different areas that are simplified to how you're gonna build your character. Now I have to say, while they are simplified at some extent, there's a whole bunch of reading and stats and stuff that if you miss a little bit on the tutorials, you might actually feel overwhelmed, but it's simpler than it usually looks at first sight. First, you have the main character page where you can allocate skills as you level up. Here you can also see your cyber deck, hugely important, which will allow you to hack more stuff, get more gear, explore the world a little bit more. Weapons you can get can be upgraded in now popular Dark Souls fashion. I love that. Get materials, upgrade your gear of choice, and keep using it if you like it. I can't stress how much I love this thing, because you're not puzzled because you just lost a gun that you enjoy, that you like, because if you like something, you can keep it throughout the whole game. You can also attach mods to your character that come into active and to passive skills. Active come in a bunch of different abilities like Super Punch that hits the enemy back to the Middle Ages, and passive stuff like increasing health and stuff like that. Combat is so damn satisfying. You can get to cover and the enemy has to come looking for you, since there's two directions of attacks, up and down. And while you're in cover, they need to take you out of it, and they actually do. While you can sometimes bunker yourself, you soon need to get moving before you get flanked by the enemy. Now the AI is not the best thing out there, but the enemy is ruthless and it's going to get you out of cover. For an ARPG, the Ascent tries something new and they nailed it. It is so damn satisfying to play. Alright, that being said, I always try to break down the game as best I can without adding too much personal opinion, but just undressing that little bastard for you guys so you can see what hell are you going to be spending your rupees on. And then at the end I unload all of the biased personal opinion and whatnot I might have in case you're interested in that. This is a signature title. It's a debut title, and I can see a hugely bright future for Neon Giant. This feels a little bit like Mortal Shell, but better. This is one of those quality over quantity games. You'll finish the game in about 15 hours. It is a rather short game, although you can also add replayability value by world exploration and gathering things you otherwise would just have missed if you rushed throughout the secondary and main missions. There's more than what meets the eye here. Visually speaking, I can already tell you this is the best looking ARPG so far until Diablo 4 comes and tries to prove it otherwise. And to be blatantly honest, I find it hard for Diablo 4 to look better than how this marvelous, goddamn beautiful, sexy ass of a game looks like. I can tell you, if this was a third-person camera angle shooter, it would still look million times better than most of the games out there. And it plays amazing, it's hot at a decent extent, the enemies are ruthless and you're always in danger, in peril, the world is chaos. The narrative switches between cinematics and world exploration, everything is just where it should be. Why the hell are you still here instead of getting out there to buy the game? But seriously, this is by far the most amazing game we've had this year, at least the most amazing game I played this year. I dare say again, this is a AAA title, and it's a half price, dude, half freaking price. Neon Giant is setting a precedent here. I believe them to be in Sweden what CD Projekt Red was to Poland one day. Great future for them. Let's hope that they do not get inside of that Icarus' skin like CD Projekt did and try to fly too close to the sun based on their reputation. That being said, that's all for me, guys. I hope you liked the video. Please leave a like and a sub. If you did, you have no idea how much that helps, and let me know in the comments below what you think of this jewel, and I'll see you them sexy ass gorgeous gamers in the next one. Stay safe, stay beautiful, and I'll see you later.